welcome to the third episode of the series on Facebook Live that I'm calling Love at First Scent. Now, those of you who have watched the first two episodes either on Facebook or on YouTube will know that the idea behind these is to turn upside down what I normally do with my perfume reviews. When I ordinarily write them for my blog, I take my time over them. I try to think about the perfumes that I'm wearing for as long as possible, try to ponder their construction, what the perfumers might be trying to say, etc. Whereas with Love at First Scent, I try to go for a kind of gut feeling, a gut reaction. And the idea is that I smell the perfumes for the first time live with you so that we can experience them together. I have sometimes broken my rule and I smell things of which maybe I've had an initial sneaky sniff at a press release or a launch or something like that, but generally I try to stick to it. As we're going along, please feel free to give me a like or a thumbs up on Facebook, assuming of course that you like what you're watching. Please feel free to join in with any questions. If there are any particular scents from the selection here that you would like me to focus on, just let me know. Leave a comment. I will try to respond to all comments as they come up, and I will certainly do my best to respond to all of them after the broadcast is completed. Share the video if you so wish, and also if you're watching it on YouTube, you're very, very welcome. Feel free to leave a comment on YouTube as well. I will do my best to reply to those as soon as possible. Right, those of you who have been following my Instagram and my blog will know that I was hoping this upcoming release would be available in time for today's episode of Love at First Scent, and indeed here it is. And I know there are quite a few people out there who are waiting for me to sniff it, waiting for me to have an initial try of it. This Ford is Mr. Oud. I haven't always enjoyed what he's done with Oud, which is almost a... Some of you will know that it is largely because of Tom Ford that the current Oud craze in Western perfumery reached the levels that it has now reached. He first introduced an Oud note into a perfume done by Yves Saint Laurent when he was creative director at YSL, and of course that perfume was M7, which YSL now release as M7 Oud Absolu. Tom Ford then left YSL, started up his own brand with Estee Lauder, and he very quickly reissued something that was quite similar to M7, one of his best-selling scents, which is called Oud Wood. There are a few other Ouds in that range, and now we have this new one called Oud Mineral. I also found out today, the internet is fantastic for these sorts of things, I found out on, I think it was through Instagram, one of my Instagram followers told me that we are to expect another Oud from Tom Ford at the same time as this one comes out, and I think that one may be called Oud Océan or Oud Ocean. I didn't know anything about that one until I saw that notification on Instagram, so I haven't got that one. Unfortunately, I can't smell it today. But without further ado, I think we should try this one. I'm very, very intrigued by the fact that it has the word mineral in its name, because there does seem to be a trend at the moment in perfumery to introduce mineral-like notes, or for want of a better description, particle-like notes, suggestions of concrete or flint or materials that come out of the crust of the earth. I'm not sure what that trend says about what's happening in the world right now, why we should be going for that particular trend, or whether it's a trend that's led by perhaps a development in the creation of synthetic materials, aroma chemicals. But there is definitely something of that happening at the moment, so keep an eye out for it, or a nose out. Anyway, here comes Mr. Ford's new Oud, and I promise I have not smelt this. Right. Yes, I am a little bit lost for words. Okay, here's an interesting thing to start off with. I don't particularly get a very, very strong oud note. Oud, as a lot of you will know, can take a few different forms, but more often than not, it will smell quite animalic, perhaps leathery, like petrol, burning wood. And there is certainly a suggestion of wood here, and perhaps it's burning wood. But this isn't overly animalic, at least on paper. And as I always say in these programs, in these broadcasts, need to bear in mind that I'm smelling these things on paper. They are doubtless going to be significantly different on skin. Thanks very much for joining, by the way. I can see a list of people appearing on my feed here, but I'm not sure if people necessarily want to shout out or whether people would rather sort of be discreet about the fact that they're watching. But hello to everybody who's watching. I've got one person who's just appeared from the west coast of America, so you're very, very welcome. Right, so I've said there is a suggestion of wood here, but the overriding thing, you know, I guess you're all thinking, where does the mineral come into it? There is an ozonic feel. And if you're all cowering for terror at this point because you know that an ozonic feel in perfumery can sometimes come across as quite unconvincing and quite synthetic-like, I would say you need to be worried, because this stuff is kind of heading in that direction, at least at this point. I'm not sure if it's trying to be marine, but it may well be. There's perhaps something seaweed-like, and of course if it's seaweedy then it starts connecting with the metallic aspects of ink. But again, I'm not getting oud per se. This is coming across as actually quite light, definitely aquatic. The aquatic sense is coming through now. And if Mr. Ford is releasing an aquatic, he usually knows what's happening as far as trends are concerned. If he's doing an aquatic, then watch out. There will probably be loads and loads of aquatics out there within the next 9 to 12 months. But I guess the overriding feelings, it doesn't hit you over the head. It's when I think of the other ouds in the Tom Ford range, Oud Fleur, Tobacco Oud, which are very, very bold creations, this one is positively demure, so maybe that's what he was trying to do, or is trying to do. Maybe he's thinking it's time we had a transparent oud, a translucent oud that doesn't shout for attention. Now, at this point in the broadcast, I usually turn to the press release to see what the brand is officially telling us about the scent. And again, I promise I haven't looked at this, so let me see if I can find it. Here we are. Okay, there we go, figures. Tom Ford Private Blend Oud Mineral Original, Oceanic, Elemental. Certainly oceanic. Private Blend Oud Mineral merges rare and precious oud with the fresh exuberance of the ocean, capturing the refreshing play of surf and sea against the burning flame of smoked wood. We mentioned California a few minutes ago. Surf and sea. Is this a Californian oud, I wonder? Tom Ford's reinvention of oud marks an olfactive watershed that pairs two of the world's most intriguing elements to reveal tonalities both exhilarating and powerfully transcendent. See, that's interesting, because this is actually coming across, if they'd said that it was trying to be translucent and ethereal, I might have gone with it. It may well be very, very different on skin. But this business of the burning flame of smoked wood, that's very much a background suggestion, and overall you're getting a sort of ozonic, aquatic wood. So I'm sorry if it doesn't sound like I'm overselling it particularly, but I'm just intrigued. It's not what I was expecting from a private blend, because we don't really tend to think of the private blends as being shy wallflowers. They're usually perfumes which have no issue at all about announcing their presence. And yet, I guess what I will want to think about further as I smell this again and wear it, the ozonic aspect, the aquatic aspect, is actually more convincing than most. And I wonder if the perfumer has actually hit upon an intriguing, interesting way of making aquatic accords more convincing by actually linking them with darker woods. Because this does have a suggestion of like an evening that you've spent by the beach, and it's definitely dark. There's definitely something very nocturnal about this scent, even though it is translucent. Maybe it's dark in a non-threatening way. So this isn't the darkness of a forest, this is the darkness of a wide open space. As I say, maybe you're on a beach and you've just had a bonfire, and the bonfire is dying down now, and everybody's had a pleasant evening, you're enjoying a picnic or something like that. It's got that sort of vibe to it, of the feel of that sort of excess energy that's been burnt off, and now people are just enjoying seeing the moonlight up in the dark sky, being reflected in the waters. Curious piece of work, because again, it's oceanic, but it's not blue, if that makes sense. It is definitely grey or black. I am intrigued. Let me know if you want to ask any particular questions about this one, if there's some aspect or other of it that you would like me to focus on. But I shall definitely come back to this one at the end of the broadcast. I'll put the blotter here, but yes, not quite what I was expecting. Tom Ford gave us an excellent quartet of green private blend scents last year, and I gather they did very well, and they did lead to a trend for green scents. So who knows, maybe this is a sort of harbinger of things to come. By the way, I should have started this broadcast, as I have done the other two, with apologies about noises off, because this is just coming to you live from a room in my house, which is not soundproofed in any particular way. I'm by a window. It's not open, thank goodness. But I'm conscious of the fact that today's noises are very different from the noises off that we've had on the other days, because it's a Sunday, so it's lawnmowers and people on motorbikes, I guess because it is a nice sunny day down here in the south coast of England. So apologies if you get distracted by that sort of thing. Right. The other one that I'm quite excited about is something that came in the other day, and this is a flanker, but it's a very, very interesting flanker, because it's a flanker to one of the greatest perfumes ever made, Aromatics Elixir from Clinique. And I don't even know if this is meant to be exactly the same as Aromatics Elixir in different packaging, or whether they've done something else with the scent. So chances are I'm going to open this and I shall smell it, and I will just say, yes, it's Aromatics Elixir in a different bottle, and we'll just have to move quickly on to another one. Do we have any Aromatics Elixir fans out there? That scent, of course, is one of the best rose patchouli combinations ever. So distinctive, so elegant. This one, I should have said, is called Premier Edition Prestige. Whatever that means. Oh, okay, and I think it's not a spray. Okay, well that would be interesting for applying onto a blotter. Attractive bottle, if you can see that. Flowers etched into it. In case you're wondering about the size, if this looks small, that's because it is quite small. 25 mils. Yeah, I know somebody who's watching is a big fan of Aromatics Elixir, and that is my mum. Hello, she's just left a comment. Right, let's try this one then. Actually, I may have to try this on skin. If I'm not going to be able to get any on the blotter, I may have to apply it onto skin. No, I think we can probably do this. No, we're all right. Okay. That does feel like a very, very solid, elegant design. That glass stopper feels very heavy, reassuring. Okay, here we go. Right, it's definitely not original Aromatics Elixir. They have done something different, I can tell you that straight away. That rose patchouli heart is most certainly present, but hasn't been softened. This is interesting because they've certainly kept that retro vibe. For better or worse, Aromatics Elixir now does come across as a perfume of its time, which is fine. I would say it's aged well, it's dated well, but it's definitely a product of several decades ago. And that slight rawness, that slight roughness around the edges is definitely present here. But there's a powdery aspect maybe, which is softening things, which maybe makes it a little bit more youthful, that makes the woods more accessible. You know what's going to happen now? I'll pick up the press release, and the press release will probably say, this is original Aromatics Elixir in a different bottle. And it'll turn out I've just been imagining that it smells different. But there's a brighter citrus quality. This is very, very curious because, of course, a lot of you will be aware that Clinique is one of the Estée Lauder companies, and Estée Lauder have a classic scent from the 60s, the late 60s, called Azuré, which is a very, very large, textured, fiery, sun-infused leather. And they have just recently released a flanker to Azuré, which they're calling Azuré d'Or, which is effectively a cleaner version of that original Azuré from the 1960s. The reason why I mention that is because this feels like a cleaner, more streamlined, more modern version of Aromatics Elixir. So there's no question that it's a patchouli leather scent, but it's softer, perhaps it's smiling more, maybe it's cast aside the more militant aspects of feminism and is ready to embrace its inner lipstick lover. I don't know. It's funny that lipsticks come to mind as well, because there isn't a sense of that too. Maybe there's a violet note in there. Let's have a look at what the press material says. I'm not going to read all of this to you because it's very long. Take your senses on an opulent journey introducing new Clinique Aromatics Elixir Premier. An alluring and exotic fragrance with a concentrated blend of natural citrus, precious floral, and modern musk. The pure essence of Clinique's beloved fragrance Aromatics Elixir gets a modern interpretation with crisp, leafy top notes. Thank God they're saying it's different. I'm not going mad. And a custom blend of musk and deep resin base notes. Leafy top notes. Greenness. Yes, I suppose so. There is something green about it, but that leatheriness comes through very, very quickly. Anyway, new Clinique Aromatics Elixir Premier is housed in a luxurious glass bottle embossed with the signature Aromatics Elixir flower. Okay. A glass stopper evokes old world glamour. Yes, I suppose it does. And allows for concentrated application on pulse points, etc., etc. New Clinique Aromatics Elixir opens with the crisp, verdant scents of bergamot, verbena, clary sage, and orange flower. There was a suggestion of something lemon-like at the beginning, which could have been the verbena. minty and lemon-like, which I guess describes Verbena. At the heart of the fragrance is the most precious extract of rose essence available. Okay. Jasmine, sambac, tuberose and patchouli round out the rich floral body. Not that this comes across as a white floral, so you don't get those characteristic jasmine and tuberose notes. Base notes of myrrh, vetiver, moss, dark woods, and a blend of modern musks add an aura of intrigue and a dry down that lingers in the air. These notes are blended together through a highly specialized extraction process called molecular distillation, which allows the most premium natural essences to be extracted, creating an unforgettable fragrance experience. Fine, if that's what they say. And this stuff is not cheap. In the UK, it is currently exclusive to Harrods, which means that I guess around the world it's going to be exclusive to certain luxury outlets. It's been at Harrods from the 1st of May, and even though it is only 25 mils, apparently it retails at £88. Perhaps I shall save it for my mum for when I see her in the summer. Feel free to leave a comment about whether you'd like me to bring it with you for the next time I see you. But I haven't actually said anything about whether I think it's any good. It's... Yes, definite thumbs up. Oh, look at all the hearts popping up. I wonder who's saying that. Is it all of you wanting me to give this to my mum? Which I will, that's fine, it's not a problem. It's extremely sophisticated. I don't want to say attractive because that, but it's brainy. I think there is something intellectual coming across, which I never think of in relation to the original Aromatics Elixir, but this is somebody with whom you want to have a conversation over a glass of wine about putting the world to rights. Marina says, give it to your mum. Absolutely. By the way, Marina, I'm going to mispronounce your surname, Marina, I'm so sorry. Barcanila is watching. You must check out her work. I hope you will be able to find her through Facebook, because she is now, as of Thursday night, a 2-time winner of a UK Fragrance Foundation Award for her perfumery work. I will try and leave a link to it in the comments at the end of the broadcast. Marina, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe all your work is all natural perfumery. So for those of you out there who are interested in all natural perfumery, do check it out. But Marina picked up her second Fragrance Foundation Award on Thursday night, and she was nominated for at least one other, unless I'm mistaken. So Marina, you're very, very welcome here, and absolutely I will do as I am told, and I will give that bottle to my mum when I see her, fingers crossed, all being well, at the end of August. Okay, right, moving on. Yes, this definitely gets a thumbs up, and I'm just trying to think why I'm not being over enthusiastic about it, but maybe it's because it's interesting in a kind of intellectual way. It's not swoon worthy, but it's very, 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 very interesting and very independent spirited. It's somebody in a kind of tan coloured outfit. Oh, Marina's just confirmed, by the way, that her perfumery is all natural. Perfect, thank you. Yes, this is. I don't smoke, and I can't stand being around cigarette smoke. But I'm picturing having a glass of wine with somebody and a discussion, like I said, and this person is smoking, and I don't mind because actually they're sufficiently interesting and engrossing to help me ignore the fact that they're smoking. If that makes any sense to you whatsoever, then maybe you need to check out this new Clinique scent. Gregory's just left a question. The new Acqua di Parma, how good is it? Which one do you mean? And perhaps I haven't tried it, so maybe if you let me know, I'll see if I can answer your question perhaps at the end of the broadcast. So yes, this one, very definite thumbs up from me. And there's my present for my mum, sorted. You're not getting anything else, haha. Right, I want to go back to the Tom Ford. The Tom Ford is still really, really not coming across with very much oud for me. I'm inclined to try it tonight on skin, because now it seems to be doing an incense thing, which I guess ties in with minerals, because incense has that saline, flinty, stone-like, pebbly aspect. With incense, you almost always imagine church pews carved out of stone, and the Tom Ford is most certainly conveying that, but not oud. Joe Wang, thanks for your question. Is that Flower by Kenzo? Yes, it is a version of. Since you mention it, perhaps we'll just have a quick sniff of that. This is called Flower Oud Lumiere. Which way do I need to point it? And I think it's only just come out. It is indeed a flower, a flanker to flower, or a flower flanker. Now this one I have smelt before, so I can't pretend that this would be an initial sniff. But if we have a very, very, very quick spray, are you a flower fan, Joe? Flower, unless I am mistaken, came out in the year 2000. Somebody can maybe quickly go on Base Notes and check the Base Notes database and find out if I'm right or wrong. And there have been several flankers along the way, and I really love Flower. I think Flower is, one of the best florals out there, and it's got that very, very distinctive texture, because with the use of the musks in the structure, that the original Flower was made by Alberto Morillas, who is the king of musks, and that's not my term. A lot of people really rate him and respect him for his use of musks. It's got that very, very, very distinctive laundry musk base, which gives it such a distinctive texture. It's almost, to my mind, like a modern version of Joy from Jean Patou, because to me Joy is the archetypal textured perfume. You just imagine Joy as this endless, endless, endless Persian carpet made up of petals of rose and jasmine. And Flower works in that sense as well, except Flower is a more modern creation. So it's got the texture, but perhaps it doesn't have quite as many colours. This one, the Eau de Lumiere, really doesn't have that laundry musk base anymore. I'm sure there are bases in there. Indeed, I'm sure there are musks in there, and you can smell them. But this doesn't have that laundry musk backdrop at all. The emphasis is much more, I would say, at the top, where there's a very crisp citrus facet that I guess justifies the word Lumiere in the name. There is something luminous about this, appropriately enough. And a few days ago, when I got this sample bottle, I just sprayed some on a blotter and left it in room, and the note with which it seemed to most prominently fill the room was, surprisingly, orange blossom, which isn't necessarily a note that you associate with the original Flower. But if you can imagine an orange blossom that's very, very luminous and is tagged next to that sort of more abstract flower heart, then you get some sense of how this new version of Flower works. I think I have got with me a little bit of the official material. There we go. In March 2017, Kenzo launches Eau de Lumiere, a new variant of the Flower by Kenzo fragrance. It aims to recreate the scent of light, because of course we all know that light has a smell. Light, energy, and the iconic poppy flower serve as the principal symbols of this release. The composition of Eau de Lumiere is radiant and fresh floral. The citrusy character of Calabrian bergamot in the top, bergamot, 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 makes an introduction to the floral heart of Bulgarian rose and delicate jasmine. White musk covers the base like a scented veil of light, it says. Yeah, I can't say I go with this description particularly, because even though there's definitely a crisp citrus top, it feels a little bit more mandarin-like, almost grapefruity, rather than distinctively bergamot-like. And there's no mention of orange blossom, even though to me there's a very, very distinct orange blossom feel here. But it works. I think it's a worthy flanker to flower, and I expect it will do very well for the brand, although because it's so different from the original flower, it'll be interesting to see how fans of flower do. It'll be interesting to see how fans of flower rate it, is what I meant to say. So we're 3 perfumes down. I should at this point say that you are watching the 3rd episode of Love at First Scent with me, Persolaise. If you're watching live right now on Facebook Live, thank you very much indeed for joining me. If you're watching afterwards on Facebook, on the sort of video that's been posted to the Persolaise wall, you're very welcome. If you have any questions or any comments, please feel free to leave them and I'll try to answer them either right now or perhaps after the broadcast. And all being well, technology permitting, I also hope to post this to YouTube at some point. So if you're watching on YouTube, you're very, very welcome. Please feel free to leave questions and comments on YouTube. And as we're going along, if you're enjoying what we're doing, please give me a few thumbs up and Facebook likes and emoticons and things like that. Consider sharing the video with other people, because all of that sort of stuff is very, very encouraging and supportive to me. Oh, somebody's just given me a thumbs up. I think afterwards I find out who does those, but as we're going along, it doesn't really tell me who they are, or maybe some people choose to do them anonymously. Now, Gregory, I think I can just about see the comments that you left. You were asking about the 2 new Acqua di Parma Intense colognes, because I think earlier in the comments that have now scrolled up, you also asked about the one which is inspired by ebony and the one inspired by myrrh. Very, very quickly, they both get a thumbs up from me. I have smelt them both, I have worn them both. I would say my preference is for the myrrh, perhaps because it's just a little bit more interesting, a little bit more original. The ebony is perhaps a more predictable woody cologne, whereas the myrrh brings in that interesting, slightly fungal, slightly threatening, and yet also still quite inviting resinous note, or slightly mushroomy note from the myrrh, and I think that's why that got my preference. I love myrrh, well done myrrh notes in perfumes anyway. Thanks for all the thumbs up and the hearts flying across my screen. Keep them coming. They're very much appreciated. So I hope that answers your question, Gregory. Are you asking because you'd like to know if you should try them, or are you asking because you have tried them yourself? If you have tried them, I'd love to know what you think of them. Chanel, you shared the video to a Facebook fragrance group. Thank you very much indeed. Tell me which one it is. I hope I belong to it, or that at least I'm aware of it. So feel free to leave a little comment to tell me which one it is that you've shared it to. Right. I'm just going to quickly glance down here to see how we're doing for time, because I don't want to take up loads and loads of your time on a Sunday. Okay, it's amazing how quickly time goes, actually. Apparently I've been doing this now for 33 minutes. I have no idea where the time goes. But because we are rapidly approaching the 45-minute mark, there is one scent that has been waiting patiently here by my side during all of these episodes that I've done so far. It is one that I've smelt before, but I really, really want to bring it to your attention because I just think it's beautiful. I can't show you the proper bottle. I don't have any proper bottles from this brand. It's quite a niche Switzerland-based brand called Sammarco. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Can you see that? And this is the brand that got a fair amount of attention for a perfume they made called Bond Tea, which was a really, really massive, really quite beautiful actually, powdery, resinous evocation of, I suppose we could say, somebody covered in leather and then dipped in chocolate. There you go. This one called Naias, I hope I'm saying that right. I have no idea how I'm going to pronounce this, whether it's Naias or Naias. This is quite different, but I'm just going to spray a little bit on here because I haven't got very much left. While I'm doing that, Gregory said that, yes, he'd like to try the Acqua di Parmans, do try to find them. I think they're well worth checking out. Well, most things by Acqua di Parma are actually well worth checking out. They're very good at doing refined elegance, aren't they? So do check those out. My preference is for the myrrh. Anyway, this is Naias from Sammarco. Joe has just sent me a link to something on Fragrantica. I guess it's their entry about Naias. Any particular reason why you're sending me that? Is there something I'm meant to know about it, or is it just for the benefit of other people? If so, thank you very much, very kind. Right, let's have a sniff. See, this is when I succumb to perfumery cliches, because even though as perfume critics we mustn't always be hankering after the past and creations that have a retro feel, it is beautiful when creations like that come along, because they just make you think of the heyday of perfumery, when I guess when perfumes were abstract rather than legible, and there's nothing wrong with legibility. The current mode of perfume creation very much favors legibility. It's almost as though perfume creators think that consumers out there want to be able to understand the perfumes very, very quickly. They want to, they want to smell bitter orange and immediately think, oh, this is bitter orange. They want to smell jasmine and immediately think, oh, okay, this is jasmine. I get it. I understand this. It's not going to be challenging. I can buy this and take it away and wear it in a very easy way. Whereas, of course, perfumes from the past maybe tended more towards abstraction. Thank you very much for whoever's leaving these hearts going across my screen. I wish I knew who you were. I suppose I'll find out later, but very much appreciated. So Naias from Sammarco is effectively an abstract floral with a pronounced violet note. Not violet leaf, but violet, which for us in Western culture immediately carries associations with lipstick, but also older lipstick, like, maybe the lipstick that your aunt might have had in her handbag. But again, there's a suggestion of orange blossom. This just feels so convincingly natural. When I was at a wedding last night, and the bride had a beautiful bouquet, surprisingly muted colours. It was not Pippa Middleton's wedding, by the way. That was not me. Surprise, surprise. Although it was just as grand, I think. And anyway, the bride had this bouquet, and there were beautiful flower arrangements everywhere, which echoed the flowers in the bride's bouquet. And of course you can't help but bring your nose to this bouquet, and you want your head to be filled with the scent of these amazing flowers, and there's nothing. Because either the flowers themselves are scentless, or even though they should be scented, they're a variety which has been forced or has lost its scent ages ago. This is like sticking your head, your nose, into a dainty, vernal, innocent bouquet, very much like a bridal bouquet, but it smells like how you would want your bridal bouquet to smell. It smells of optimism and the dawn and smiles and people enjoying their time together, enjoying their company with each other. There's nothing at all cynical about it, or snarling, or manipulative. Not that there's anything wrong with, florals that sometimes are manipulative and seductive and try to wind you around their little finger. Those sorts of florals are great. But this one isn't like that. Chanel loves my descriptions. That's very kind, Chanel. I'm doing my best. This isn't easy for me making these descriptions up as I'm going along, because what a lot of you may not know is that when I write a blog review, even if it may only be a relatively brief one, like a sort of 250 word one, I agonize over a lot of those descriptions and go back over them. So it may well be that if I were to write about this scent, I may change my mind completely and decide that doesn't smell like a bridal bouquet at all, but this is the impression that it's making at the moment. And one thing I did try to do before starting this broadcast, I tried to find out what the name means. It feels as though it might be a classical reference of some sort. I wondered if Naias is a character from some sort of mythology, you know, the goddess of something or other, or whether it's a word from a language meaning blooms or flowers. I couldn't find out. So if there's anybody who knows whether I've missed something obvious, please let me know. I want to have a look at what the official notes are supposedly for this scent. It is quite new. It was only launched this year, and the list of notes goes something like this: violet, rose, jasmine, osmanthus, neroli, iris, sandalwood, apple, pear, cassis, mandarin, orange, and amber. So yes, a whole load of really, really nice smelling stuff. But that list of flowers is telling: violet, rose, jasmine, osmanthus, iris, and that was the only floral, wasn't it? Yeah. It is like a coming together of these beautiful blooms, and it genuinely conveys the sort of harmonious whole of all of their scents combined. The notes say apple and pear. Perhaps there was a suggestion of something fruity at the beginning, but definitely not in a silly, synthetic, off-putting, sickly sort of way. Maybe just to support the flowers with a bit of crisp bite. So if you have any way of getting your hands on this scent from Sammarco, do try to do so. I know they have a website. Perhaps they are able to send people samples through the site. It's well worth checking out. And then also at the same time you could ask for a sample of Bond tea, because even though that is very, very different, it's just as worthy of your time. Okay, I fancy the one I keep wanting to revisit, the one I'm most intrigued by, is the one that we started with, the Oud Mineral from Tom Ford. Yeah, see, it's just a sort of faint, ozonic, really, really quite clean, transparent incense now. What I will do, which is what I did for episodes 1 and 2 as well, is after a few hours, perhaps after 3 or 4 hours, I will smell these blotters again, and I will let you know what they're doing, how they've developed. And maybe what I might do tonight as well is actually wear the Tom Ford on skin and leave a comment about how it's done. Right, I think we probably have time for one more perfume, and this one is kind of a request, because I believe it was somebody who watched the previous Love at First Scent on YouTube who asked me if I could possibly get round to talking about this perfume from Ormonde Jayne, because the person said that they saw the Ormonde Jayne sitting patiently by my side for both episodes 1 and 2, and they wondered if I could get round to it. Now, I haven't smelt this one. It's called, I suppose we're meant to pronounce it the French way, Ambre Royal Amber. And it's in the new style Ormonde Jayne packaging, which has gone through quite an upgrade really, from the very, very elegant, you know, you've got the brand's name over there. When you take it out, you've got a cutout whose shape might remind you of another brand. It's funny that, isn't it? You look at it like that and it doesn't really particularly make you think of another brand. Whoops, there we go. But that does. Right, let's have a smell of Ambre Royal, if I can retrieve the bottle. Here we go. The name obviously is a giveaway. I'm thinking it's going to be an amber. But the work that Linda Pilkington, the brand's founder, does on this brand is always worth checking out. She tends to work with a perfumer called Geza Schön, about whom we talked in the first episode of Love at First Scent. I don't know if he has collaborated with her on this one, but I suspect he has. I think she tends to do almost all her perfumes with him. This is actually already coming across as quite diffusive for an amber. Right, let's have a sniff. That's rather promising. Perfumers trying to make amber scents these days have an uphill battle. Because there are so many amber perfumes out there, it is almost impossible to bring something new to the genre. And also, if you try to make your amber really, really wacky and eccentric so that it is wildly different from all of the ones that have come before, then, surprise, surprise, it ends up not actually being an amber anymore, and so it can no longer justify having amber in its name. And I guess what we look for in amber scents is just slight variations on the theme, slight twists, maybe an unexpected note at the top, maybe a stronger emphasis on this, that, or the other, maybe a lack of a particular element. I was talking to a perfumer a few months ago who has just done an amber for Boucheron, and he said that one of the things that he did in his amber was that he took out patchouli, because he thought, okay, that's such a prominent part of most amber perfumes, what would happen if we completely took patchouli out of it? So that's what perfumers try to do, just little tweaks, little variations, so that you will never get an amber perfume that feels like a complete original, because that just wouldn't be possible. Thank you very much for the thumbs up and things going across my screen. Please keep them coming. And yes, as I smell this one from Ormonde Jayne, you get that sweet, resinous, powdery, oriental base, which is completely what you would expect from an amber. A traditional amber scent, by the way, will have a base of vanilla, benzoin and labdanum. That's the kind of accord that we actually call an amber accord. Lots and lots of other things go into it, like patchouli usually goes into it as well, but we would expect all amber perfumes to have that accord at their heart. And this one certainly has that, but it's got a coolness at the top. A spicy coolness, which I guess is maybe what is making it come across as more modern, and is also at the moment making me think of a very, very new English brand called Gallivant, founded by a chap called Nick Stewart. Each of the perfumes in his brand is named after a city, reflecting his love of travel, and he has an amber perfume called Istanbul, and the twist he has brought into the amber structure there is to add a note of cardamom, which introduces a touch of novelty to the amber structure. And cardamom, as far as spices go, is actually quite cooling and translucent in its effect, and there's that kind of thing happening here too. Maybe that indicates that what we want from our amber scents now is for them to be less heavy, less sticky, less cloying, cooler. The very idea of a cool amber actually is quite interesting, because it's a form that you would also automatically associate with heat. So air-conditioned amber. Amber for the shopping malls of Dubai, where the air conditioning is probably using enough power to light up the moon. Other than that, it at the moment on the blotter, it doesn't come across as especially multifaceted. It's probably an easy sell. Marina says this amber fragrance sounds beautiful. I think what I would say at this stage is it's promising. I would want to wear it a little bit longer and see what I think of it, but right now I can't say it's making me think that it would be a replacement for the other amber scents in my collection. But that coolness is interesting. Now, I should have prepared myself and brought the official information for this as well, although that doesn't tell me very much actually. This fragrance features osmanthus, iris, musk, cedar, amber, orchid and ambroxan. Ambroxan is the sort of very, very popular material in the niche world at the moment, a woody, ambery, ambergris-like material that tends to make perfumes very long-lasting. So what I was saying, osmanthus, which tends to sort of smell a little bit like apricot jam. Maybe a suggestion of sweetness there. Iris, I'm not getting a huge iris note, to be honest. Musks and, well, they've said cedar, so maybe that's the thing that I'm reading as a cold spice. Obviously cedar isn't a spice, but cedar can bring a very, very dry, aloof quality, which is maybe why I'm getting the coolness. But interesting. Curious name. This, it doesn't feel especially royal or regal. You know, this is maybe like the amber for third or fourth in line to the throne, if you get my meaning. But definitely one to revisit. Julia's just asked a question. Is Tom Ford's Amber Absolute amongst your favourite amber fragrances? In a word, no. Not particularly. I guess I'm a little bit predictable when it comes to ambers. I love Serge Lutens' Ambre Sultan, but that is not like this at all. Ambre Sultan is your archetypal smoked bonfire amber. The queen of all ambers, I guess, is Shalimar from Guerlain, and I know it's a terrible cliche, but I absolutely adore Shalimar. Lots of people love L'air du désert marocain from Tower Perfumes, and I did just think of another one, and it slipped my mind, but it'll probably come back to me. Shalimar, the Tower, Ambre Sultan. I can't remember now. It'll come back to me. But yeah, I do love smelling Shalimar. And it's actually interesting thinking of Shalimar. Oh yes, I remember which one it was. Musc Ravageur from Frédéric Malle, which is kind of like an update of Shalimar, effectively, really. And that brings a coolness to it as well. So maybe this is what we want from our ambers. As time flies and as the years pass, maybe we actually want our ambers to get cooler and cooler. This is... See, of course, now the idea's in my head about the osmanthus, and I'm thinking maybe I am picking up an apricot vibe to it, which would certainly be an interesting addition to the amber form. So, Linda Pilkington, you have sufficiently intrigued me. I think I will either wear this myself or ask my wife to wear it so that we can see how it develops. Chanel says, Shalimar is one of my favourites. Yes, you can't get enough Shalimar, and especially Shalimar in extrait form. And Alistair Kemp, what about Estée Lauder Knowing? In what sense? What do you mean, what about Estée Lauder Knowing? In relation to ambers, or do you sort of mean in relation to something else? Because I don't particularly associate Knowing with ambers, but perhaps I'm not getting the drift of your question. Okay, right. Quick glance at time. I have definitely taken up far too much of your time. I have no idea where the time goes. We're almost on 55 minutes. Thank you very much indeed for watching. This is going to be the last Love at First Scent for a little while. Because of other commitments, I will not be able to find enough time to actually do a Facebook Live broadcast like this for a few weeks. I will be very, very, very surprised if I get any time at all in June, but things should be a little bit easier in July. So hopefully round about the start of July, or maybe the very, very, very end of June, we may be able to have episode 4 of Love at First Scent. So I really hope you've enjoyed the first 3 episodes so far. If you haven't seen the first 2, you will find them on the Persolaise Facebook page, so just keep scrolling or look on the video tab. That's probably the easiest way to find them. You will also find the first 2 episodes on YouTube. You will find links to them on my blog. This video hopefully will go up onto YouTube as well within the next 3 days or so. You're very, very welcome, Bernd. Oh, and Alistair did say in relation to amber. Then no, I would probably have to re-smell Knowing in relation to amber, but that's definitely not a perfume that comes to my mind in relation to amber. Thank you all very much indeed for watching. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them here or on YouTube, and I will try to answer them as soon as I can. Please keep those thumbs up and hearts, etc., going flying across the screen. And my mum has just said that this is her favourite episode, and I wonder if that's because she knows she's got a gift out of it. Honestly, mums and their sons and the things they get their sons to do. I'm glad it was your favourite episode. Right, take care everybody, bye.